Greetings to all. I want to wish everyone a Chag Kosher V'Sameach. In my video, I want to share three separate ideas on the part of the Seder that is probably just run over. It is Baruch. It is the mitzvah to bench. It is the mitzvah to say Birkat Hamazon. And actually, it is a biblical command, as we know that the Torah tells us, V'achalta v'savata u'virachta, that after we have any meal consisting of bread, or here in this case, matzah, so we have a biblical command meant to bench, to say the Birkas Hamazon. And I want to share three different ideas that I hope, not just for Seder night, but really, there are a lot of meals during the Seder, and every time we bench, we should be thinking, hopefully, about these beautiful, beautiful ideas. The first two, as probably everyone is, are focused mostly, our minds, our hearts are focused on Achenu B'nai Yisrael, everyone in Eretz Yisrael, thinking about them and thinking about their safety and just the courage of them to live there and to really live in the place where all of Klal Yisrael will hopefully soon end up, and where we honestly should all be living. The Ishbitzer Rabbi has a beautiful, beautiful idea. If you look at and you compare and contrast the first bracha, there are three biblical brachos, the first bracha of Hazanat HaKol, and then the bracha of Noda and Rachim. Those are all obligated to us on a biblical level. The fourth bracha of Hatov HaMeitiv was an enactment or a decree that we should say that fourth bracha that came later on in Jewish history after the Bar Kokhba revolt. But the first, if you look at the first two, the Ishbitzer Rebbe has a beautiful idea. He says that we refer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the third person. We say, Hu notein lechem l'chol basar, uvetuva hagadol tamilo chasar lanu v'yachsanu. And all of the way we reference HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the first bracha of Birkas Hamazon is in the third person. Whereas when you look at the second bracha, it's Noda L'cha. It's Brit al Britcha Shechatamta Bivsarenu. V'al Toratcha, yours. It's in the second. Now, what is the difference between the third person and the second person? The third person is the idea that Hashem is a little bit more distant. Hashem is, it's more, it could be perhaps more reverential, right? Very often when you speak to a holy person, you speak to a Rosh Hashiva, so you say, what does the Rosh Hashiva think? Or what does the Rebbe say? Right? That's more reverential, but it's also more distance. It's not as close, it's not as intimate. The kesher, the connection, doesn't seem to be as close. In Spanish, you know that there are two ways to say you, Y-O-U. One is to, T-U, and one is usted. The usted form is more distance because there is greater reverence and greater awe. And here also, that message seems to be embedded in the first bracha versus the second bracha. So why is that? So the Gemara tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu, he is the one who, after we received the man, he formulated the bracha, the first bracha Birkat Hamazon, the bracha ending in Baruch Atah Hashem Hazan Et HaKol. Whereas Yehoshua, upon entering into Eretz Yisrael, he formulated and put together the text of the second bracha, the bracha of Noda Lecha Hashem Elokeinu Al Shinchatu L'Avotenu Eretz Chemda Tov V'Rechava. That second bracha was enacted the text was formulated by Yehoshua. What's the difference? The Meishiluach wants to know between the first and the second bracha. Why is the first in more of a distant language than the second? That's because Yehoshua, to a certain extent, he wasn't as great as Moshe Rabbeinu, but he definitely had an advantage over Moshe in that he entered into Eretz Yisrael. And someone who enters into Eretz Yisrael, someone who breathes the air of Eretz Yisrael, someone who walks the stones and walks the land of Eretz Yisrael, has a greater relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, when he formulates the bracha, when he writes down the words, he refers to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the second tense, right? All of these, right? It's all in the second term because he had this more intimate, more real, more deeply religiously saturated relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu to a certain extent than even Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu never entered into Eretz Yisrael. So the first idea is that idea that the intimacy of a person's relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu when they enter into Eretz Yisrael, when they live and they walk, Eretz Yisrael is seen by the difference of the tenses that's used between the first bracha and the second bracha. In the second bracha of No Dilecha, Rav Soloveitchik makes an unbelievably beautiful and magical point. We refer to Eretz Yisrael as an Eretz Chemda, Tova, Urchava. The word Tova means good. It's a good land. It's a great land, a wonderful land. Urchava means it's an expansive, wide, broad land. Eretz Chemda, what does the word Chemda mean? So the Rav says that there's only one thing in all of the Torah that is described, in addition to Chemda, that the Anshe Knesset Haggadah, they put that word in to describe Eretz Yisrael. That idea that Eretz Yisrael is described as Nechmad, or as an Eretz Chemda. Why that word? Only one thing in the Torah is described as Nechmad, and that is the Eish Hadas. That the Eitz Hadas. The Eitz Hadas is described twice. In Perek Bet, in Breshit, it's Ki Eitz Nechmad L'mar'eh. And then later in the next Perek, the pasuk says, V'nechmad ha'etz lahaskil. Twice the Eitz Hadas is described as a desirous, as a desirous, or is a desirous tree. And Eretz Yisrael is also desirous. Rav Soloveitchik says, why? What does that mean? So let's go back to Sefer Bereshis. Basically, Chava, there were so many trees. She could have eaten from the fruit of all the other trees, except for the Eitz Hadas. And what? There was some type of magnetic pull that told Chava that you need to have this fruit. And it was almost unexplainable that she needed this fruit when she could have had everything else, or the fruits from all of the other trees. Rav Soloveitchik writes, one becomes intoxicated by such beauty. The beauty of the Eitz Hadas was so beautiful and succumbs to it. It is irresistible. When Chava saw that the tree of knowledge was to be desired, it means not merely that she chose to pick the fruit from the tree, but that she went under the spell of the tree. She acted like a sleepwalker, as if involuntarily she reached for the fruit. This is Chemda, and here he says so beautifully. Eretz Yisrael attracts the Jewish people. Judaism is identified with Zionism. That is because the Jews have loyalty to Eretz Yisrael. If Eretz Yisrael were not Eretz Chemda, we would have forgotten it long ago. Instead, we take absurd, almost suicidal risks for Eretz Yisrael. That's the idea of Chemda. That Chemda, Eretz Yisrael being described as an Eretz Chemda, it paints the picture that we are just drawn. We are just drawn to Eretz Yisrael. We want to be there, and the people there every 10 minutes, they're in their they're in bomb shelters. They're not sleeping through the night. Why are they there? They're there because a Jew belongs in Eretz Yisrael. And the third idea is this idea that if you look at Birkas Hamazon, the brachos become from something universal to more tribal or preferential. We see that the opening bracha is basar. He gives bread, he gives sustenance to everybody, to the entire world. Hazanat ha'olam kulo. He gives to the entire world, Jew and non-Jew alike, Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, Israel, America, Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary also. Everyone is sustained. And then the next bracha talks about mitzvos. And he tells, we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the Eretz Chemda Tov Chava, for Eretz Yisrael. And we speak about the mitzvahs. We thank him, but that we were ultimately given the Torah, and we were given all of the mitzvos. And he's mefarnis, and he gives us everything. Not the entire world, but the Jewish people, but Am Yisrael more specifically. And then you turn to the third bracha, Rachem, and then we speak about that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is good to Eretz Yisrael and to Yerushalayim, and that we want to be that there wants to be a Bonei Yerushalayim. And that I think is also one of the important messages of Pesach. We mentioned here in the bracha. He took us out of Mitzrayim, that he cares about us, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is engaged in our lives. He was constantly looking at us and focusing on us. And we were in a precarious situation. We were in a dangerous situation. We were in a situation where we were being killed and we were being enslaved. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked down at us and he says, I want these people. and I want to give them the Torah. I want to take them out of Eretz Mitzrayim, and also I want to take them out of their slavery. I want to take them out of their bondage. I want to unshackle them, and I want to take the Mitzrayim out of them. I want to take all of the materialism out of them, and I want to give them the Torah. I want to give them the greatest gift that was ever given to man, and I want them to be imbued with Elokus, with godliness and with kedusha and with piety in their lives. So Hashem cares about the whole world and sustains the whole world, but ultimately He cares most about the Am HaNivchar, about the chosen people, the people that chose Him and that He chose. We say every day, right prior to saying Shema, Ha-bocher bi'amo Yisrael bi'ahava. We proclaim. And we proclaim and we state that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose the Jewish people and we choose Him. And we also look forward to that one day where HaKadosh Baruch Hu will also, he'll show the entire world that He is the God, and that the Hazanat HaOlam Kulo, the entire world, and the Jewish people will see a rebuilt Yerushalayim, a Boneh Berachamav Yerushalayim. He'll see a rebuilt Yerushalayim, and they will all come to recognize His greatness. Bayomahu Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. And that day, Hashem will be recognized not only by the Am HaNivchar, not only by us, that He is the one in the world, but it is that everyone. So these ideas, these insights should hopefully energize and animate your Siddharim, but more importantly, or just as importantly, should animate and energize every time that you bench, every time that you thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you fulfill this very, very important biblical command to say Birkat HaMazon that is rooted obviously in the Jewish midah of Hakaras HaTova, recognizing and appreciating the good and greatness and love and care and concern and sensitivity that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for each and every single one of us. Chag Kasher V'Sameach.